Hi, this is Aubrey with Carrot Voice Radio. I'm sitting here with Annette I. Smith, a brand new author, and this is the Real Book Talk coming at you live right here on Carrot Voice Radio. Good evening, Annette. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing really well.
Okay, it's good to have you here. You're a little bit Bajan.
More than a little bit.
Oh, you see, I like that.
More than a little bit.
Claiming
I've got
it.
my navel string there, as my mother would say, so that makes me officially Bajan.
That is beautiful. I love it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about your book, but I want you to tell our audience a little bit about you before we get into the book.
Annette I. Smith is a mother, writer, she's student, she's teacher, she's friend, but most importantly, she's passionate. And when I say passionate, I'm passionate about the things I do, the things I care about. I'm passionate about people.
You authored the book Etched, and you're going to be having a party and a reception at the Barbados Consulate in New York City. Tell us how that came about.
Well, it came about because last year I attended a reading also at the embassy, and that was for Clifton Luke and his book. And while I was there, I met Miss Linda Watson Lord, and I met the Consul General, Mr. Price. And I said to them that I was in the process of writing a book. And they said, well, what we do, we try to bring out as many Bajans as we can, and as soon as we have an author, we embrace them and try to let everyone know about them. So Linda and I stayed in contact, and once Etched was pretty much near done, I reached out to her again. I said, Linda, I've done it. Etched is ready. And she got all excited, and that's how Etched came about.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your writing background. How did you get started with Etched? What inspired you to get started? Tell us a little bit first about the title.
Well, Etched went through many working titles, many of which didn't work. And one day, as I was putting together a piece dealing with the ancestors, one of the characters said to the other, let this thing be etched in your heart. And as soon as I wrote the word etched, I said, that's it. That's it. I got it. That's the title. And nothing could deter me from that. And she wanted it etched in her daughter's heart. It became etched in mine. And now you guys have etched.
Give us a synopsis of the storyboard related to the book.
Well, Etched captures the story of 8 generations. It starts in 1929, where a girl comes to New York City, and she has circumstances, and she feels that her circumstances are unique. And as she tells them to her aunt, in a very maternal way, says to her, they're not unique. The women of this family have experienced these things before. And so the aunt takes her on a journey, sometimes very, very emotional. And this journey takes her back to the 1800s. And once she gets there, she meets her grandparents 7 and 8 generations earlier and their struggles. So Etched is just that. It's a phenomenal journey.
Ancestral journey.
Ancestral, phenomenal journey that you must take.
Okay. How does this parlay your personal life and your life of your family and the women in your family in this book? Or is there an association?
Well, I personally say that there isn't, but it is almost impossible to have a journey that deals with ancestors and not be able to see my own ancestors and hear the stories my mother told of her family. And for America, it's cotton, but in Barbados, it was cutting the sugar cane, and it's even now images of the women with their heads tied and cutting the sugar cane. So I can't say that it's not my journey as well, because all of us have ancestors that slavery is part of what we are. You can't be black, you can't be African American or Bajan American and somehow find a way to separate yourself from slavery. So I guess Etched is, in a way, the story of my ancestors.
Now, in talking to you prior to this interview, we shared you shared a lot of internal characters related to some of the characters in the book, and you also chronicled the journey from the Caribbean to North America, going down south, and a whole bunch of very intrinsic values as it relates to our ancestry and our history. How did you gather the information for this book during this process, this spiritual journey?
I'm glad you used the word spiritual, because Etched was not a story that I got up one day and says, oh, I'm going to write a story about slaves. It was never intended. It was never in my psyche in any way. But Etched, I have said it before and I will continue to say it, Etched was a gift to me from the ancestors. Etched was out there and they wanted me to tell it. And it came to me, as some people might say, in the dead of the night, a quiet whispering voice. But Etched came to me that way. And then for the pieces that were missing, I was oftentimes taken to the places where I had to gather the information, like how to bake bread in the 1800s. You didn't just get it one day and get your Crisco and your baking powder. There was no such thing. Someone had to burn some wood and then separate the wood and sort the wood and get the rising agent out of the wood. The milk had to be left outside to sit around to sour. So then I had to learn these things. So I learned how to live in the 1800s, how to grow rice, how to reap rice. I swear to God, there were times I felt the moisture from the water in my feet. So that's how I went about gathering it. I traveled to the 1800s.
You are a new author, but you are writing a book in changing times. We have, for example, our first African American president. Black History Month. This is February. For those who are listening to this interview right here in Carib Voice Radio, and for those who will view this video, thinking about these two things, what would you say to the African American community globally, including Caribbean, because Caribbean has a lot to do with what is going on in Black America? What would you say?
I think I almost want to take from President Obama when he said it's a time for change. So inasmuch as my book is historical in nature, we have to stay present day. And I think there's no way that we can be present day and not keep a foot in the past, because if we don't keep a foot in the past, we will forget the struggle. We will forget what it took for everyone, say, to get President Obama into the White House. It wasn't designed for us. It never was meant for us. But because people collectively came together, remembering where we were, and knowing that in order for us to have a better future, we had to go back to the past. We had to remember those who struggled for the civil rights, for the right to me to be able to wash my hands where I want, sit where I want, ride where I want. So because I have learned those things, I remembered being the first time here in America, a little girl who went on the wrong street, and someone said, "Hey, nigger." And I didn't know that he meant me, and I said to him, "Oh, that's not my name. My name is Annette." And he thought I was being a facetious little kid. But no one had ever called me that. So I really thought he didn't know my name. So for another child now who's growing up, where the word nigger is being used to mean a good guy and a buddy and a friend, we need to take them back so they can learn the history of that word, when that word was derogatory. So in my mind, we can't forget, and that not forgetting will help us to project ourselves and to propel ourselves into a better future. So I hope that we can learn from our history, our present, so we can get a better future.
Let's talk about influences related to the actual writing of the book. You told me in a couple of instances you heard this, "Write it down." Tell us a little bit about that spiritual journey in the ancestral realm as you began to have acts of cognitive acts, but also spiritual acts happening simultaneously. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, some people might find that to be a little bit weird, but it is as truthful as anything. This journey started for me a night about 11 p.m. and I thought my neighbors were having an argument. And I listened only because I was annoyed. But then as I listened, I realized they didn't sound the way I know my neighbors to sound. In my head, they sounded funny. And I was still annoyed, but a bit curious. And then I heard, write it down. And I went like, you can't write your neighbor's argument. And that was my verbal argument. And I heard again, write it down. And because I've known to be obedient to the spirits, as people will call it, I listened, I got up, and I'm a prolific journaler. I got my journal and I got my pen. And I think it was around 11 p.m. when I started to write. When I was done writing it down as I was instructed, it was about 7 a.m. the following day. And I had written non-stop without moving from about 11 to 7. And that story, I had the birth of Cornbread. I had the story being told to me. Now I later found out molasses and Bertha Mae and Mama Mae, Jennie Mae. Those were the characters I met. And I apologize. They're not characters. Those were the ancestors I met that first night.
That is wonderful. I get goosebumps when I hear you talk, and it's an awesome honor to have the opportunity to interview you. People buying this book, tell us, where can they get it? Why should they get it? And more importantly, why do you want them to come out to your book launch, which will be held on March 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern in New York City at 820 2nd Avenue, Barbados Consulate Office?
Okay, first of all, where the book is available. Currently, the book is available at lulu.com. That's LULU.com. Later in March towards April, the book will be available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And you can also visit my website, and when you get there, which is www.AnnetteISmith.com, and any information that I might have missed here will be available there. Now, why should anyone and everyone get etched? I almost want to say, why not? But I'll tell you why. Because there are many books out there that are frivolous writing, that are not really socially inspired, or can socially inspire. I would like you to get etched and take this journey. And there is no way anyone can read Etched and not tell someone. And that someone is going to tell someone. And it will remind you that we are here because other people struggled. Other people took whips across their backs. Other people had to do as they were told, not blink an eye, just do. Other people watched sufferings that are innumerable, immeasurable. People suffered anguish and pain. And if they came, and as I have said, if they came and got me to tell it, if they can get me to tell it, then I think everyone has a right to read it, because they want you to know what they went through. Will you deny Rosa Parks the right to move from that seat on the bus, or to refuse to move? You wouldn't, but you would tell someone that she refused to move, so you can now choose to sit wherever you want. Read Etched, and you will know why we were able to make the changes we've made.
Thank you very much, Miss Annette I. Smith. I can tell you this is going to be etched. This interview will be etched in my mind for the rest of my life. Thank you for joining us right here on CaribVoiceRadio.org.
Thank you so much for having me.
Keep it on the lock. Check us out, CaribVoiceRadio.org.